Hmm. Now we'll start with the 28th question. Now this is a continuation, the second part of the static quiz of the September. ठीक है, क्या है इसमें देखो. During the end of the 18th century and the early 19th century, a class of the rich peasant known as the Jotedas consolidated their position in the village and acquired the vast areas of the land. Jotedas were loyal to the zamindars and helped them collect the revenue from the royals. तो इसमें गलत कौन सा है? इसमें देखो दूसरा स्टेटमेंट गलत है. ठीक है, दूसरा स्टेटमेंट गलत है, बट आपका जो पहला स्टेटमेंट था वो बिल्कुल सही था. देखो, while many zamindars were facing the crisis at the end of the 18th century, the group of the rich peasants were consolidating their position in the villages. And this class of the rich peasants were known as Jotidas. By the early 19th century, the Jotidas had acquired vast areas of the land, sometimes as much as several thousand acres, and they controlled the local trade as well as money lending, exercising immense power over the poorer cultivators of that region. A large part of the land was cultivated through the sharecroppers, adiyas, or the bargadas who brought their own plows and labored in the field and handed over half the produce to the Jotidas after the harvest. They fiercely resisted the effort by the zamindars to increase the jama of the village, prevented zamindari officials from executing their duties, mobilized the royals who were dependent on them, and deliberately delayed the payment of the revenue to zamindar. The ज्योतिदास जो थे वो बहुत पावरफुल थे नॉर्थ बंगाल में. कुछ कुछ जगह इन्हें होलो दास भी कहा जाता था, एल्सवेयर उनको गंती दास और मंडल्स भी कहा जाता था. ठीक है, एंड देयर राइज इनएविटेबली वीकेंड द जमींदारी अथॉरिटी. तो मतलब जब ये बहुत ज्यादा पावरफुल हो गए ज्योतिदास, तो जमींदारी बहुत ही कमजोर हो गई. ठीक है, ड्यूरिंग द टाइम ऑफ द ब्रिटिश राज द टर्म अमला, अमला जो होता है इट रेफर्स टू द ऑफिस ऑफ द जमींदार. तो अमला जो है वो जमींदारी ऑफिसर को कहा जाता है. At the time of the rent collection, an officer of the zamindar, especially the amla, came around to the village, but the rent collection was a perennial problem. Sometimes bad harvest and the low prices made the payment of the dues difficult for the roads. At other times, the roads deliberately delayed the payment. Consider following statement regarding the Bhudan movement. तो भूदन मूवमेंट जो है attempted to persuade the wealthy landowners to voluntarily give a percentage of the land to the landless people. It was initiated by the Mahatma Gandhi. It widened the concept of the Gramdan and advocated the common ownership of the land. ठीक है, तो उसमें करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट क्या है? सी. पहला और तीसरा स्टेटमेंट सही है, दूसरा गलत है. देखो, भूदन मूवमेंट जिसे लैंड गिफ्ट मूवमेंट भी कहा जाता है, इसे ब्लडलेस रेवोल्यूशन भी कहा जाता है. अब देखो नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन ये पूछोगे कि यार भूधन मूवमेंट को ब्लडलेस रेवोल्यूशन क्यों कहा जाता है? भूधन मतलब भूधन जो है लैंड गिफ्ट मूवमेंट, मतलब जमीन को आपने गिफ्ट में कर दिया, भूधन. ठीक है, भू जो होता है भूमि और उसको धन, लैंड गिफ्ट मूवमेंट जिसे खून से कहा गया है कि ब्लडलेस रेवोल्यूशन वाज अ वॉलंटरी लैंड रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट इन इंडिया. It was initiated by Gandhian Acharya Vinoba Bhave in 1951 at Pochampally village, which is now in Telangana. The Bhudan movement attempted to persuade the wealthy landowner to voluntarily give a percentage of their land to the landless people. And philosophically, Bhave was influenced by Mahatma Gandhi's Sarvodaya movement and the Gram Swarajya. The initial objective of the movement was to secure the voluntary donation and distribute it to the landless, but soon came to demand one-sixth of all the private land. In the 1952, the movement widened the concept of the Gramdan, the village in gift, or the donation of an entire village, and it started advocating common ownership of the land. During the Mughal period of the Indian history, the term परवाना refers to orders issued by the higher authorities. देखो जैसे निशान जो होता है उसे रॉयल फैमिली के सदस्य कहते हैं. फरमान मतलब जो हमारे बड़े राजा हैं उन्होंने जो ऑर्डर दिया है. परवाना ऑर्डर issued by the higher authorities, and siha huzur proceeding of the provincial court. Consider the following statement regarding the Carnatic Wars. The first Carnatic War 1744 to 48 was triggered by the War of the Austrian Succession. Under the Treaty of the Aix-la-Chapelle, Madras was restored to the French. The Battle of the Wandiwash ended the French threat. ठीक है, ended the French threat to the British in India. इसमें करेक्ट कौन सा है? सी. मतलब पहला और तीसरा स्टेटमेंट सही है, दूसरा गलत है. The First Carnatic War was fought between the Britishers and the French due to the Austrian War of Succession in Europe. The French forces under the Dupleix defeated the English and captured Madras. Then in 1748 AD, the peace treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle was signed and Madras was restored to the British and the exchange of war prisoners took place. Battle of Wandiwash. This was the Third Carnatic War, which is between the French and the British. Having made substantial gain in the Bengal Hyderabad, the British, after collecting a huge amount of revenue, were fully were fully equipped to face the French in the Wandiwash, whom they defeated. ठीक है, Black Hole Tragedy. The Black Hole Tragedy is associated with the Battle of Plassey. One of Kolkata historical monument, Fort William, was built during the time of the Bengal Presidency. Named after William III, the fort sits on the bank of the Hooghly River and was at the center of the Battle of Plassey, fought between the British and the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Daulah. It is also the site of an infamous dungeon called the Black Hole of Calcutta. The city of Calcutta was erstwhile known as Calcutta. As a result of the Battle of Plassey, the British started wielding influence over the Bengal Nawabs and consequently acquired significant concession of revenue from the trade. It resulted in the East Indian Company gaining greater military right, which allowed them to push other European colonial powers away from Bengal. तो उसमें करेक्ट स्टेटमेंट कौन सा है? सी, दोनों ही सही है. बैटल ऑफ प्लासी जो था वो क्यों लड़ा गया था? इट वॉज ड्यू टू द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट बिटवीन द बंगाल नवाब एंड द ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी, resulted in the victory of the East India Company, leading the greater power to extract revenue and the consolidation of its presence in Bengal. The British now wielded enormous influence over the Nawab and consequently acquired significant concession for the previous losses and revenue from the trade. The British further used this revenue to increase their military might and push the other European colonial powers such as the Dutch and the French out of the South Asia, thus expanding the British Empire. ठीक है, ऐसा कौन सा बैटल था दैट एंडेड विद द ट्रीटी ऑफ इलाहाबाद? इट वाज द बैटल ऑफ बुक्सर. बैटल ऑफ बुक्सर जो था इलाहाबाद, ट्रीटी ऑफ इलाहाबाद से हुआ था. The Treaty of the Allahabad was signed on August 16, 1765 between Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II of Bengal and the Lord Clive of the British East India Company after the Battle of Buxar 1764. And based on the terms of the agreement, Shah Alam II granted Diwani right to the East India Company. Consider following a statement regarding the Rotwari system. It was introduced by the Robert Clive. Major areas of introduction are Madras, Bombay, Assam, core provinces of the British India and the ownership rights that were handed over to the peasants. तो इसमें करेक्ट क्या है? इसमें करेक्ट है 2 and 3, दूसरा और तीसरा. मेजर एरियाज ऑफ इंट्रोडक्शन इंक्लूड मद्रास, बॉम्बे, part of Assam, core province of British India is right. Ownership rights were handed over to the peasants is also right. ठीक है, बट इसमें पहला स्टेटमेंट गलत है. रॉबर्ट क्लाइव ने ये नहीं किया था. The Rotwari system was a land revenue system in British India introduced by Sir Thomas Munro in 1820, which is based on the system administered by the Captain Alexander Reed. And this system was exactly opposite to the zamindari system. In this system, the peasants were given the ownership. It was first introduced in the Madras Presidency and was later extended to Bombay, parts of Bengal, Assam, Coorg, etc. ठीक है, फिर देखो क्या है विटली. Whitley Commission established in the British India was mandated to report on the existing conditions of the labour and to make the recommendations. The Royal Commission on the Labour or the Whitley Commission on Labour was set up in 1929 to inquire into the existing conditions of the labour in the industrial undertakings and plantation India. The commission was chaired by John Henry Whitley. The commission submitted the report in 1931 and the report surprised many by concurring with the criticisms of the Mahatma Gandhi and others that poverty was the cause of the India's social industrial problem. It was also critical of the British employers' role in perpetuating the problem. Warren Hastings' plan of 1772 was concerned with judicial reforms. Warren Hastings' administrative plan divided territory of Bengal, Bihar, Orissa into a number of districts. As per the Warren Hastings plan, a Mofussil Diwani Adalat was established in every district with the collector as the judge. The court was authorized to decide all the civil cases like the dispute regarding property, inheritance, marriage, caste, debt, dispute account, contract, partnership and demands of the rent. And wherever possible, the religious laws of the Muslim as well as the Hindus were followed and applied. Example, caste, marriage, inheritance, etc. Consider following a statement regarding the Indian Factory Act of 1881. ठीक है, देखो इंडियन फैक्ट्री एक्ट 1881 dealt primarily with the problem of the child labor. It ruled that no children below the age of 14 years could be employed in a factory. तो इसमें करेक्ट कौन सा है? इसमें पहला स्टेटमेंट करेक्ट है. इंडियन फैक्ट्री एक्ट 1881 dealt primarily with the problem of the child labor is right. Second is wrong. Rule that no children below age of 18 would be employed in a factory. ये गलत है. Indian Factory Act 1881 dealt primarily with the problem of the child labor between 7 and 12 years of age, जिसके significant provisions were employment of the children under 7 years of age prohibited, working hours restricted to 9 hours per day for children, children to get 4 holidays in a month, hazardous machinery to be properly fenced off. Which of the following factors is responsible for impoverishment of the Indian agriculture in the British times? ठीक है, इसका करेक्ट आंसर क्या है? डी. तीनों ही सही है. लैंड रेवेन्यू, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव जुडिशियल सिस्टम ऑफ ब्रिटिश एंड द ruin of handicraft industries. The impoverishment of the Indian peasantry was a direct result of the transformation of the agrarian structure due to colonial economic policies, ruin of the handicraft leading to overcrowding of land, the new land revenue system, and the colonial admin and judicial system. Consider following statement regarding पिट इंडिया एक्ट ऑफ 1784. देखो, पिट इंडिया को एक्ट ऑफ सेटलमेंट कहते हैं. ये मेरे ख्याल से सही नहीं है. एंड इट एस्टैब्लिश अ सिस्टम ऑफ डबल गवर्नमेंट, है ना. तो ये सही है. ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट वॉज गिवन द सुप्रीम कंट्रोल ओवर कंपनी अफेयर एंड द एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इंडिया. ये भी सही है. In a bid to rectify the defect of the Regulating Act of 1773, British Parliament passed the Amending Act of 1784 known as the Act of Settlement. The next important act was the Pitt Indian Act of 1784. The features of this act are distinguish between the commercial political functions of the company, allowed the court of director to manage commercial affair but created a new body called the Board of Control to manage the political affair, established a system of double government. It empowered the Board of Control to supervise and direct all the operations of the civil, military, government or revenue of the British possessions in India. And the act was significant for two reasons. First, the company territories in India were for the first time called the British possessions in India, and second, the British government was given the supreme control over the company affair and the administration in India. Consider following statement regarding the Deccan Riots. The main motive of the riot was to destroy the account book of the moneylender. The Deccan Agriculture Relief Act was passed that ensured that the farmers could not be arrested and imprisoned if they were unable to pay their debts. The movement was highly criticized by Pune Sarvajnik Sabha. तो उसमें करेक्ट कौन सा है? पहला दूसरा सही है. Main motive was to destroy the moneylender account books. ये सही है. And Deccan Agriculture Relief Act was passed that farmers will not be arrested and imprisoned if they are not able to pay their debts. First two are right. Third is wrong. In May and June 1875, the peasants of the Maharashtra and some parts of the Pune and Ahmednagar districts, है ना, they revolted against the increasing agrarian distress. The Deccan riots of the 1875 targeted the conditions of debt penoj commodity to moneylenders. The rioters' specific purpose was to obtain, destroy the bond, decor, and other document in the possession of moneylender. The movement also got support from the Pune Sarvajnik Sabha co-founded by M.G. Ranade. It took several months for the police to restore order in the countryside. The Bombay government initially dismissed the uprising as rebel. However, the government of India pressurized Bombay to inquire into the matter. Accordingly, the Deccan Riot Commission was set up that presented a report to British Parliament in 1878. In 1879, the Agricultural Relief Act was passed that ensured that the farmers could not be arrested and imprisoned if they were unable to pay their debts. ठीक है. The Ilbert Bill controversy is said to be a high watermark in the history of Indian national movement. This is because it invoked the issues of A. Racial discrimination between Indian and Europeans. This is right. ये suppression of Indian media houses and their nationalization by the government is wrong. Security lapse on the Indian borders, especially the northwestern frontier, is also wrong. Lord Ripon wanted to remove the two kinds of the law that had been prevalent in India. According to the system of the law, European could be tried only by European judge or European magistrate. The disqualification was unjust and was sought to cast a needless discredit and dishonor upon the Indian-born member of the judiciary. C.P. Ilbert, the law member, introduced a bill in 1883 to abolish this discrimination in judiciary, but Europeans opposed this bill strongly. They even raised a fund of 1,50,000 rupees and established an organization called Defence Association. They suggested that it was better to end the English rule in India than to allow the English to be subjected to Indian judges and magistrates. The press in England joined the issue, hence Ripon amended the bill to satisfy the English in India and England. Which of the following were the main objectives of the Khilafat movement? Uh, to rouse the anti-British feeling among the Muslims of India, and to save the Ottoman Empire and preserve the Khilafat. ये दोनों सही है. To demand separate electorates and preserve the Khilafat. ये नहीं है. The main objective was to correct the Khilafat wrong, to save the Ottoman Empire and save holy places of Muslims. Through this, they expressed their anti-British feelings. During salt disobedience, after Gandhi arrest, the Congress Working Committee sanctioned uh, the No Chaukidari tax campaign in the Zamindari area, violation of forest laws in central province. ये दोनों सही है. But payment of revenue only in the Rotwari areas, ये गलत है. ठीक है. Gandhi's arrest came on May 4, 1930, when he had announced that he would lead a raid on the Dharasana salt working on the west coast. Gandhi arrest was followed by massive protest in Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, Sholapur, where the response was the most fierce. After Gandhi's arrest, the CWC sanctioned non-payment of the revenue in the Rotwari area, no Chaukidara tax campaign in the Zamindari area, and violation of forest laws in the central province. Consider the following statement regarding composition of Constituent Assembly. The Constituent Assembly was constituted in November 1946 under scheme formulated by August Offer. The Constituent Assembly was a partly elected and partly nominated body. Seats allotted on basis of population at that time. इसमें सही क्या है? D 2 and 3. The Constituent Assembly was constituted in November 1946 under scheme formulated by Cabinet Mission Plan. The representatives of princely state were to be nominated by the head of the princely states. The Constituent Assembly was to be a partly elected and partly nominated body. Moreover, the members were to be indirectly elected by the members of the provincial assemblies, who themselves were elected on a limited franchise. The seats were allotted on the basis of population at that time. Which of the following regions were integrated by the referendum in India? ठीक है. रेफरेंडम से देखो नागालैंड और तुम्हारा सिक्किम हुआ है. ठीक है. नहीं, नागालैंड, सॉरी सॉरी, तुम्हारा सिक्किम और जूनागढ़ हुआ है. सिक्किम एंड जूनागढ़ बाय द रेफरेंडम. Hyderabad was integrated by the means of police action. Junagadh, Sikkim by the means of referendum. Kashmir integrated by assassination. Nagaland was part of Indian Union but separated from Assam. Consider following statement regarding the Indians' political status post-independence. From the August 15, 1947 to January 26, 1950, India's political status was that of a dependency in the British Commonwealth of Nations. India ceased to be a British dominion on the 26th January 1950 by declaring herself a sovereign republic. Which of the above statement are correct? देखो पहला स्टेटमेंट तो सही है, दूसरा गलत है. Till the passage of the Indian Independence Act 1947, India was a dependency colony of the British Empire. From the August 15, 1947 to 26 January 1950, India's political status was that of a dominion in the British Commonwealth of Nations. India ceased to be a British dominion on the January 26, 1950 by declaring herself a sovereign republic. However, Pakistan continued to be a British dominion until 1956. Privy purse system allowed princely state rulers to retain the certain private property and grant in hereditary. Abolition of the privy purse was a major issue in the post-independence India. The integration of India was preceded by an assurance that after dissolution of princely rule, the then ruler's family would be allowed to retain certain private property and given a grant in hereditary or the government amounts, measured on the basis of the extent, revenue, and potential of the merging state, the grant called privy purse. The Delhi Agreement of 1952 is remarkable in the modern Indian history because It was crucial to the integration of the state of Jammu and Kashmir in India. This agreement endorsed the main decisions of the Constituent Assembly of the then state of Jammu and Kashmir, reached between representative of Kashmir government and Indian government. This arrangement was later known as Delhi Agreement 1952, led to the conferment of the special status to Kashmir, including a separate flag, jurisdiction of the parliament and supreme court over the state, etc. Consider the following statement. She is regarded as the first female teacher of India, associated with Satya Shodhak Samaj. Along with her husband, recognized that education was one of the central planks through which women depressed classes will become empowered. It is referred to सावित्रीबाई फूले। सावित्रीबाई फूले अपने पति के साथ मतलब उन्होंने ये सब किया था। उन्होंने कहा था कि वुमेन और डिप्रेस क्लास जो है through education will be becoming empowered. That is Savita Bai Phule. Savitri Bai Phule, the social reformer, considered one of India's first modern feminists, born on 3rd January 1831. Among her accomplishments, she is especially remembered for being India's first female teacher who worked for upliftment of women and untouchable in the field of education and literacy. Phule was born in Naigaon, Maharashtra in 1831 and married activist and social reformer Jyotibai Phule when she was 9 years old. After marriage, with her husband's support, Phule learned to read and write and went on to India's first school for girls called Bidewada in Pune 1948. And before this, she started a school with Jyoti Rao cousin Sagan Bai in Maharwada in 1847. Both of them recognized that education was one of the central planks through which women and depressed classes could become empowered and hopes to stand on an equal footing with the rest of the society. They started the Literacy Mission India between 1854-55 and started the Satya Shodhak Samaj, through which they wanted to initiate the practice of Satya Shodhak marriage in which no dowry was taken. The Wavell Plan arrived at the Shimla Conference 1945 provided for which of the following. ठीक है, इंडियनाइजेशन ऑफ द वाइसरॉय एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल ये तो गलत है। रिमूविंग एनी कास्ट एंड रिलीजियस बेस्ड कोटा एंड एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल पार्टीशन ऑफ इंडिया। इसमें सही स्टेटमेंट पहला वाला ही है कि वाइसरॉय एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल का इंडियनाइजेशन होगा। As per the plan, all the members of the council, except the viceroy and the commander-in-chief, would be Indians. It said in the council that there would be equal representation of the caste Hindus and the Muslims, and proposed for a future constitution of India, not the partition. The Radcliffe Line was the boundary demarcation line between the India and the Pakistan. It was the boundary demarcation portion of Punjab and Bengal province of British India. It was published on 17th August 1947 upon partition. Which of the following historical commissions were related to state reorganizations in India? That is 1, 2, 3. The GVP Committee, Dhar Commission and the Fazal Ali Commission. Integration of the princely state with the rest of India has purely an ad hoc arrangement. There has been a demand from different regions, particularly south, for reorganization of a state on the linguistic basis. है ना? Accordingly, in the June 1948, the Government of India appointed the Linguistic Provinces Commission under the chairmanship of S.K. Dhar to examine the feasibility of this. The commission submitted the report in December 1948 and recommended the reorganization of the states on the basis of admin convenience rather than linguistic factor. This created much resentment and led to appointment of another linguistic provinces committee by the Congress in December 1948 to examine the whole question afresh. Consisted of Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel and Pattabi Sitaramaiah, known as GVP committee, submitted the report in April 1945 and rejected language as a basis for reorganization of the state. The creation of Andhra state intensified the demand from other regions for creation of a state on linguistic basis, forced the Government of India to appoint a three-member state reorganization commission under chairmanship of Fazal Ali to re-examine the whole question, but rejected the theory of one language, one state. Its view was that the unity of India should be regarded as the primary consideration in any redrawing of the country's political unit. The Lal Bahadur Shastri was associated with Salt Satyagraha, ठीक है, Servant of the People Society and Tashkent Declaration. Lal Bahadur Shastri was born in 1904, whereas the Mikhailo deliberations were held in the middle of 19 CE 1850s. ठीक है? He signed the Tashkent Declaration on 10 January 1966 with the Pakistan President Muhammad Ayub Khan to end this 1965 war. He introduced the slogan Jai Jawan Jai Kisan and played a pivotal role in shaping the India's future. He became a life member of the Servant of the People Society Lok Sevak Mandal founded by the Lala Lajpat Rai. There he started to work for the upliftment of backward classes and became the president of the society. He participated in the non-cooperation movement and the salt substitute. Consider following statement regarding Royal Indian Navy mutiny of 1946. It had started as a strike in the Royal Indian Navy. The INC unequivocally supported the mutiny. The objective behind the mutiny was to get complete independence for India. तो उसमें correct कौन सा है? Set पहला started as a strike in the Royal Indian Navy. बाकी तो गलत है. The Royal Indian Navy Mutiny Revolt, known as 1946 Naval Uprising, was an insurrection of Indian naval raiding soldier, police, persons, civilian against British government. Further, from the initial flashpoint in Bombay, the revolt spread and found support throughout the British India from Karachi to Calcutta. The mutiny was suppressed by the British troops from the Royal Navy warship. The INC and the Muslim League condemned the mutiny, while the Communist Party of India was the only party that supported the rebellion. The RIN revolt started as a strike by the rating of the Royal Indian Navy on 18 Feb in protest against general conditions. The immediate issue of the revolt were the living conditions and the food. Attlee's statement got a lot of importance in the India's freedom struggle. What is the significance of it? It declared the British intention of leaving the Indian subcontinent. The Clement Attlee, the British Prime Minister, sensing the trouble all around, made an announcement on the February 20, 1947. The British House of the Commons declared the British intention of leaving the Indian subcontinent. A deadline of the June 30, 1948 was fixed for the transfer of the power even if the Indian politicians had not agreed by that time on the constitution. Which of the following are the core principles of Panchashil? देखो पंचशील में क्या है कि म्यूचुअल नॉन एग्रेशन, ठीक है, पीसफुल को एग्जिस्टिंग. Five principles of the peaceful coexistence Panchil Treaty are कि non-interference in the other internal affair, respect for each other, territorial unity, integrity, sovereignty are set of principles to govern relations. Five principles in the Sino-Indian Agreement 1954 are mutual respect for the each other, territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, the mutual non-interference in each other internal affair, equality and the mutual benefit, and the peaceful coexistence. Which of the following could be considered as a policy of the early days of the non-alignment movement? ठीक है. देखो इसमें सी है, सिर्फ दूसरा ऑप्शन सही है, बाकी पहला तीसरा गलत है. Staying out of war, wrong. Staying away from joining any of the military alliance is right. Not acting as a mediator to any bilateral or international conflict. This is also wrong. The policy of staying away from alliance should not be considered isolation or neutrality. Non-alignment जो है is not isolationism, since isolationism means remaining aloof from the world affair. In comparison, the non-alignment country, including India, play active role in mediating between two rival alliances in the cause of peace and stability. NAM did not advocate joining either the NATO or the Warsaw Pact. The non-aligned states, including the India, were actually involved in the war for the various reasons. They also worked to prevent the war between others and tried to end the wars that had broken out. Consider the following statement. In the first 7-year plan, the trade was federalized by the import substitution strategy. The second 5-year plan tried to build the basis for a socialist pattern of society. तो इसमें गलत कौन सा है? इसमें गलत है तुम्हारा which of the above statements are incorrect? गलत कौन सा है? दोनों ही गलत है. Industrial Policy Resolution 1956, in accordance with the goal of the state controlling the commanding height of the economy, the Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956 was adopted, and this resolution formed the basis of the second 5-year plan, the plan which tried to build the basis for a socialist pattern of society. In the first 7 plan, the trade was characterized by what is commonly called inward-looking trade strategy. Technically, this is called import substitution. The policy aimed at replacing or substituting import with domestic production. Consider the following statement regarding 5-year plan India. The duration of the plan holiday was from 1966 to 1969. Garibi Hatao slogan was given during the second 5-year plan. The third 5-year plan was based on the PC Mahaluganas model. इसमें करेक्ट कौन सा है? पहला सही है. Due to the failure of the third plan, the government was forced to declare planned holidays from 66 to 67, 67 to 68, and 68 to 69. The third was based on Gadgil Yojana. Garibi Hatao was given during the fourth year 5 plan. Which of the following are correctly matched? Delhi Commission Civil Services सही है. मैकडॉनल्ड कमीशन दैट इज प्रेस के लिए गलत है. सर्जेंट प्लान एजुकेशन के लिए सही है. सर्जेंट प्लान जो है एजुकेशन के लिए है. मैकडॉनल्ड कमीशन जो है वो फैमिली के लिए है. The Lee Commission, the report in the year 1924, recommended that the Statutory Public Service Commission contemplated by the Government of India Act of 1990 should be established without delay. The Sergeant scheme, commonly known as the Report of the Sergeant Commission on the Post-War Education Development in India, outlined the future development of the literacy and education in India. The MacDonald Commission was a famine commission appointed by the Lord Curzon in 1901. Consider the following statement. In the SWOT treaty is the only instance where India and Pakistan have allowed a third party to help resolve the issues. The Tashkent Declaration is a peace agreement between India and China signed after the Sino-World War that occurred in 1962. Shimla Agreement was signed between India and Pakistan following the Bangladesh Liberation War in 1971. इसमें गलत कौन सा है? पहला गलत है, फर्स्ट टू गलत है, तीसरा सही है. There have been precedent when the India-Pakistan have allowed a third party to help resolve the issue. Both nations were able to reach the agreement through the third party mediator in the case of the Indus Water Treaty and the negotiation in the Run of Kutch dispute. The Shimla Agreement was signed between India and Pakistan on 2nd July 1972 in Shimla, followed from the Bangladesh Liberation War in 1971 led to independence of Bangladesh, earlier known as East Pakistan, and was part of territory of Pakistan. The Tashkent Declaration was a peace agreement between India and Pakistan signed on 10 January 1966 that resolved the Indo-Pakistani War of 1965. Consider following statement regarding the Indo-Soviet Treaty of the Peace, Friendship and Cooperation. इसमें देखो सेकंड स्टेटमेंट सही है, पहला गलत है. ट्रीटी प्लेड इम्पोर्टेंट रोल इन साइनो इंडियन वॉर ऑफ 1962. पहला स्टेटमेंट गलत है. इंडो सोवियत ट्रीटी ऑफ द पीस फ्रेंडशिप cooperation was a significant deviation from the India's previous position of the non-alignment during the Cold War. The Indo-Soviet Treaty of the Peace, Friendship and Cooperation was a treaty signed between India and Soviet Union in August 1971 specified mutual strategic cooperation, and that was a significant deviation from the India's previous position of non-alignment during Cold War and was a fact in 1971 Indo-Pakistani War, caused by increasing Pakistani ties with China and the US and played important role in 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. Operation Searchlight is related to Bangladesh Liberation War. It began after the Pakistani military junta based in West Pakistan launched Operation Searchlight against the people of the East Pakistan on the night of 25th March 1971. Consider following statement regarding no first use nuclear doctrine. इसमें से पहला स्टेटमेंट सही है. Refer to a pledge or a policy by a nuclear power not to use nuclear weapon as a means of warfare unless first attacked by an adversary using nuclear weapons. No first use nuclear doctrine refer to pledge or policy by a nuclear power not to use nuclear weapon as a means of warfare unless first attacked by an adversary using nuclear weapon. Earlier, the concept had also been applied to chemical biological warfare. China became the first nation to propose and pledge NFV policy, first gained nuclear capability in 1964, stating not to be the first to use nuclear weapon at any time or under any circumstances. India first adopted a no first use policy after the second nuclear test, Pokhran 2 in 1998. Which of the following operations by Indian military were related to Harminder Sahib Golden Temple Complex? इसमें करेक्ट आंसर पहला और दूसरा ठीक है. ब्लैक थंडर एंड ब्लू स्टार. Operation Blue Star was a code name of an Indian military action that was carried out between 1 and 10 July 1984 in order to capture the Sikh leader Jarnail Singh Bhindranwale and followers hidden inside the buildings of Harminder Sahib Golden Temple Complex in Amritsar, Punjab. Operation Black Thunder is a name given to two operations that took place in India in the late 1980s to flush out remaining Harpur Singh militant from the Golden Temple using Black Cat Commando of National Security Guard like Operation Blue Star, and these attacks were on the Harpur Singh Corps based in the Golden Temple in Amritsar, Punjab. Operation Poli. Indian armed forces ended the rule of the Nizam of the Hyderabad and led to the incorporation of the princely states of the Hyderabad into the Indian Union. Jayaprakash Narayan's concept of the total revolution was aimed at bringing a change in the existing society in tune with the ideals of the Sarvodaya. Jayaprakash once stated that the total revolution is a combination of seven revolutions: political, social, economic, cultural, intellectual, education, spiritual, and the main motive being to bring in a change in the existing society which is in tune with the ideals of the Sarvodaya. Consider following statement regarding Chipko movement. Chipko movement was a Gandhian farmer protest against deforestation by local and Himalayan region. Movement was led by Sundarlal Bahuna. Support for movement came from the women. इसमें तीनों same है. It was a Gandhian form of the protest against the deforestation by the local in the Himalayan region. To stop the deforestation, local women make circle around tree and stop women from cutting them down. The first shift action took place in April 1973 in Mandal village, now in Uttarakhand, and spread over the next 5 years to many Himalayan districts. The movement sparked after the government decided to allot a plot of forest area in the Alaknanda Valley to a sports boat company. And with the help from a local NGO, the women of the area went into the forest and formed a circle around the tree, protecting them from the men who came to cut down the tree. Sundarlal Bhaguna, leading the movement, appealed to Prime Minister Indira Gandhi to implement a ban on cutting down. His appeal resulted in a 15-year ban on chopping green trees in the 1990s. During the Cold War period, the term Third War referred to the countries that were not aligned with either USA or the Soviet Union. Third War country labeled during the Cold War to those which are not aligned with US or Soviet, and since the fall of Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, the term the Third War has decreased in use. It is being replaced with the terms such as developing countries, least developing countries, or the global south. According to the terms of subsidiary alliance, Indian rulers were supposed to protect the British representative in the princely states. According to the terms of these alliances, Indian rulers were not allowed to have the independent armed force. They were to be protected by company and had to pay for subsidiary forces that the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of this protection. If the Indian rulers failed to make the payment, then the part of the territory was taken away as a penalty. In 1720, the British government enacted the Calico Act, was it is related to, banning the use of printed cotton textile imported from India. Calico Act banned the import of the most important cotton textile into England, followed by the restriction of the sale of most common textiles. It was a form of the economic protectionism, largely in response to India, particularly Bengal, that dominated the world cotton textile market at the time. The act was a precursor to the Industrial Revolution when the Britain eventually surpassed India as the world leading textile manufacturer in the 19th century. Consider following a statement regarding the Young Bengal movement. इसमें देखो डी तीनों सही है. They attacked the old tradition and decadent custom, organized the debates against the idol worships and the casteism, advocated the women's right and their education. Henry Vivian Derozio was the founder of the Young Bengal movement. He taught in the Hindu College, Calcutta. His followers were known as the Derosians and their movement the Young Bengal movement. They attacked the old traditions and the decadent custom. They also advocated the women's right and their education. They found the association and organized the debates against the idol worship, casteism, and superstitions. Consider the following statement. Maulana Azad established the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. Kuka movement in Punjab aimed at purifying the Sikh religion by removing all the abuses, superstitions and the ill practices. इसमें गलत कौन सा है? पहला गलत है. मौलाना आज़ाद established मोहम्मद एंग्लो ओरिएंटल कॉलेज. ये सर सैयद अहमद खान ने establish किया था. बाकी कुका मूवमेंट पंजाब purifying Sikh religion, removing all abuse, superstition. This is right. Consider following a statement regarding Theosophical Society. It was founded in Calcutta by Bikaji Kama. ये तो गलत लग रहा है मुझे. Main aim was to produce a study of ancient religion philosophies. ये भी गलत है. नहीं ये वाला ठीक है. The second statement is right. Central Hindu School chosen as a parent organization that acted as a catalyst for the growth of the society. This is wrong. Theophilosophical City was founded in New York, USA in 1875 by Madame Ashby Blavatsky, Russian lady, and Henry Steele Olcott. Blavatsky and Henry Steele Olcott, an American colonel. Main objective was to form a universal brotherhood of the man without any distinction of the race, color, or the creed, and to promote the study of the ancient religions and the philosophies. They arrived in India and established their headquarters at Adyar in the Madras in 1882. Later in the 1893, Mrs. Annie Besant arrived in India and took over the leadership of the society after death of Albert. Mrs. Annie Besant founded the Central Hindu School along with the Madan Mohan Malviya at Banaras that later developed into Banaras Hindu University. अब इसमें लिस्ट सही से मैच करो ए का 4 है देखो है ना ए का 4 बी का 1 सी का 2 3 का 3 देखो इसमें मोफला रिवॉल्ट जो है केरल में हुआ था ए का मूवमेंट यूपी में हुआ था पबना रिवॉल्ट बंगाल में हुआ था और बक्सर रिवॉल्ट जो है बिहार में हुआ था The Malabar Rebellion of the 1924, known as the Mofla Revolt, started as a resistance against the British colonial rule in the Malabar region of Kerala. Eka movement or unity movement is a peasant movement that surfaced in Hardoi, Bairesh and Sitapur during the end of 1921. The Pabna peasant uprising 1873 to 76 was a resistance movement by the peasant against the Zamindar in the Bengal in the Yusuf Shahi Paragra, now the Sirajganj district, Bangladesh and Pabna. Swami Sahajanand Saraswati organized the Bakshat movement in the Bihar in 1937-1938. The Bakshat means a self-cultivated. The movement was against the eviction of the tenant from the Bakshat land by Zamindar and led to passing of the Bihar Tenancy Act and the Bakshat land tax. There was no independent development of the industries in India during the British rule because of the absence of the heavy industries. The primary motive of the Britishers were to make India a net exporter of raw material to the British industry at a cheap rate and to sell the British products at the higher rate in the Indian market. The British rulers neither permitted modernization nor did they encourage the growth. Besides, there was a scarcity of basic and heavy industries. Aim of education as stated by the Wood Dispatch of 1854 was spreading English learning and female education in India. Sir Charles Wood, President of the Board of Control, played important role in spreading English learning and female education in India. Wood suggested that the primary schools must adopt vernacular language, high school must adopt Anglo-vernacular language, and at college level, English should be the medium of education. And this is known as the Wood's Dispatch. The vocation and the women's education were also stressed upon. One of the most favorable steps taken was to create an English class among the Indian people to be used as the workforce in the company admin. With the reference to the colonial rural India, home charges formed an important part of the drain of wealth from India, and which of the following funds constituted the home charges? इसमें तीनों सही है. Funds which are used to pay salaries and pensions of the British person engaged in India, funds that are used to support the Indian office in London, and the funds that are used for waging the wars outside India by the British. With the reference to the colonial rule in India, the home charges formed an important part of the drain of the wealth from the India. Home charges refer to the expenditure incurred in Britain by the Secretary of the State on the behalf of India. They include funds that are used to pay salary and pensions of the British person engaged in India, funds that are used to support the India office in London, and the funds that are used for waging the war outside India by the British. Who among the following was a proponent of the Fabianism as a movement? It was Annie Besant. The Fabianism socialist movement, the theory that emerged from the activity of the Fabian Society, was founded not in 1884. Annie Besant was a member of the Fabian Society. Now come the environment. Consider following a statement regarding biomass gasification. देखो biomass gasification is a process of converting It is a process of converting solid biomass fuel into gaseous combustible gas through a sequence of thermochemical reactions. The coconut shell, the groundnut shell, and the wheat straw can be used in the biomass gasification. The combustible gases generated from biomass gasification consist of only hydrogen and the carbon dioxide. इसमें correct कौन सा है? B. 1 and 2 both are right. Third is wrong. Biomass or renewable organic resources includes the agriculture crop residues such as corn, stover, wheat, straw, forest residues, special crops grown specifically for energy use such as switchgrass or willow trees, organic municipal solid waste and animal waste. Biomass gasification is a process that converts organic or fossil-based carbonaceous material at the high temperature without combustion with a controlled amount of oxygen and the steam into carbon monoxide, hydrogen and the carbon dioxide. The carbon monoxide then react with the water to form the carbon dioxide and the more hydrogen. The ocean acidification lead to which of the following? The growth and survival of the calcareous phytoplankton will be adversely affected. The gross survival of the coral reefs will be adversely affected and favors the formation of the cloud and also the process of cloud seeding. इसमें सही कौन सा है? E, 1 and 2. As the carbon dioxide dissolves in the seawater, it forms the carbonic acid, decreasing the ocean's pH, a process collectively known as ocean acidification. Increased seawater acidity has been demonstrated to affect the formation dissolution of calcium carbonate shells and skeletons in the range of marine species including coral, mollusks such as oyster mussel, and many phytoplankton and zooplankton species that form the base of marine food web. Ocean acidification would lead certain marine organisms to emit less of the sulfur compound that help to seed the formation of cloud and so keep the planet cool. The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere slowly raises the temperature of the atmosphere. ठीक है, this is because it absorbs the infrared part of the solar radiation. The greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, water vapor dioxide, absorb most of the earth emitted long-wave infrared radiation that heats the lower atmosphere. Smog is a kind of air pollution caused by all the three: burning of large amount of coal slash burning of crops, pollutants generated from the paint and hairspray. Smog is caused by large amount of coal burning, slash and burning, smoke forming pollutant generate from the automobile exhaust, power plant fireback, and even the paint, hairspray, charcoal, starter fluid, and the plastic popcorn packing. Which of the following are the characteristics that the pollutant should possess in order for biomagnification to occur? इसमें पहले दो सही हैं. Pollutant should be biologically active. A pollutant should be long-lived. Biomagnification stands for biological magnification, that means the increase of contaminated substance or toxic chemical that take place in the food chain. These substances often arise from intoxicated or contaminated environment. The contaminants include the heavy metal, namely mercury, arsenic, pesticides such as DDT and polychlorinated biphenyl compound that are taken up by the organism because of the food they consume or the intoxication of the environment. The pollutant needs to satisfy characteristics like the long life, biologically active, soluble in the fat to make the biomagnification possible. Depending upon the source composition of the coal being burned, the components of the fly ash vary considerably, but all the fly ash substantially includes which of the following compounds? That is 1 and 3, silicon dioxide and aluminum dioxide. Oxide. Depending upon the source and composition of the coal being burned, the component of the fly ash vary considerably, but all the fly ash include the substantial amount of silicon dioxide, aluminum oxide, and calcium oxide, the main mineral compound in the coal-bearing rock strata. The minor constituents are arsenic, beryllium, boron, cadmium, chromium, hexavalent, chromium, cobalt, lead, manganese, mercury, molybdenum, selenium, strontium, thallium, vanadium, along with very small concentration of dioxide and PHE compound. It has also unburnt carbon. Fly ash can be used in which of the following ways? Substitute material for the stand, stabilizing soft soil, fertilizer, cattle feeder, embankment and other structural fill. इसमें correct answer क्या है? सारे सही हैं. It can be used for concrete production as a substitute material for the Portland cement sand. Fly ash pellets can also replace the normal aggregate in the concrete mixture, embankment and the other structural fill. The cement clinker production as a substitute material for the clay, stabilization of the soft soil, the road sabbath construction as aggregate substitute material. Example for the brick production. Agriculture uses soil amendment, fertilizer, cattle feeder, soil stabilization in the stock feed yard, and agriculture stay. Loose application on river to melt the ice and loose application on the road and parking the lot for ice control. Consider following statement regarding the mechanism to reduce the emission forms. D. तीनों सही है. Precipitator 90% particulate matter हटाता है which is present in the exhaust from a thermal power plant. Scrubber जो है वो gases हटाता है from the oxides of sulfur. Catalytic converter जो है वो convert करता है unburned मतलब जो हाइड्रोकार्बन मतलब जले नहीं है unburnt है into carbon dioxide and water. The smokestacks of the thermal power plants, smelters and other industries release the particulate and gaseous air pollutant together with harmless gases like nitrogen, oxygen, and these pollutants must be separated, filtered out before releasing the harmless gases into atmosphere. There are several ways of removing particulate matter, the most widely used of which is the electrostatic precipitator that can remove over 99 particulate matter present in the exhaust from a thermal power plant. A scrubber can remove the gases like sulfur dioxide. In a scrubber, the exhaust is passed through a spray of the water or the lime. Catalytic converter having expensive metals, namely the platinum or the palladium and the rhodium, as a catalyst are fitted into the automobiles for reducing the emission of the poisonous gases. Consider the following statement regarding the ozone. Ozone found in the lower troposphere acts as a shield absorbing ultraviolet radiation from the sun. The thickness of the ozone in a column of the air from the ground to the top of the atmosphere is measured in the terms of Dobson units. इसमें सही कौन सा है? Second statement. The ground level or the tropospheric ozone is created by the chemical reaction between the oxides of nitrogen and the volatile organic compound. The combination of these chemicals in the presence of sunlight form ozone. About 90% of the total ozone in the atmosphere is in the stratosphere and 90% is in the troposphere. Ozone in the troposphere is considered a greenhouse gas and may contribute to global warming. There is a good ozone, and this is found in upper part of atmosphere called the stratosphere and is acting as a shield absorbing ultraviolet radiation from the sun. The thickness of the ozone in a column of the air from the ground to the top of the atmosphere is measured in the terms of the Dobson units. Consider the following statement. The natural reservoir of the phosphorus is rock. Animals need large quantities of phosphorus to make the shell, bone and teeth. Like carbon cycle, there is a respiratory release of phosphorus into atmosphere. इसमें करेक्ट क्या है? वन और टू सही है, तीसरा गलत है. Phosphorus is a major constituent of the biological membrane, nucleic acids, and cellular energy transfer system. Many animals also need large quantity of this element to make the shell, bones, and teeth. The natural reservoir of the phosphorus is rock that contain the phosphorus in the form of phosphate, and when the rocks are weathered, minute amount of these phosphates dissolve in the solution and are absorbed by the roots of the plant. Herbivores and the other animals obtain this element from the plants. The waste product and the dead organisms are decomposed by the phosphate solubilizing bacteria releasing phosphorus. Unlike the carbon cycle, there is no respiratory release of the phosphorus into atmosphere. Consider following statement regarding Gangetic River dolphin. इंडिया की नेशनल एक्वेटिक एनिमल है, सही है. इट हैज रूडिमेंट्री आइज, हेल्प द डॉल्फिन इन प्रेइंग. नहीं, ये गलत है. दे आर डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड अक्रॉस द स्टेट वेयर द रिवर गंगा फ्लोज थ्रू. ये भी गलत है. गंगरा डॉल्फिन को प्लैटिनस्टा गैंगिटा कहते हैं. डिक्लेयर्ड इंडेंजर्ड बाय इंटरनेशनल यूनियन फॉर कंजर्वेशन ऑफ नेचर IUCN. It has rudimentary eyes. From praying to surfing, dolphin do it through ultrasonic sound. It is India's national aquatic animal and popularly known as a susu. They are distributed across the seven states in India: Assam, UP, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal. The Ganga River flows through the states of Uttarakhand, UP, Bihar, West Bengal. Which of the following are the reason for decline in the production of Gangetic River dolphin? देखो, ये चारों के थ्रू होता है. इलीगल सैंड माइनिंग, चेंजिंग रिवर कोर्स, ओवर यूज ऑफ द रिवर वाटर, इनलैंड वाटरवेज. चारों इज द राइट आंसर. डिक्लाइन का रीजन क्या है? इलीगल सैंड माइनिंग, overuse of the river water, changing river course, inland waterways, movement of large cargo vessel, various anthropogenic religious activities, accidental killing by the catch fisheries related entanglement. Consider following statement. In India, the wetlands are regulated under Environmental Protection Act 1986. The number of the wetlands in the India listed under Ramsar Convention is less than 50. देखो, पहला वाला तो गलत है, ये सेकंड सही है और ये थर्ड ये भी सही है. एम ऑफ रमसा लिस्ट इज टू डेवलप मेंटेन इंटरनेशनल नेटवर्क ऑफ द वेटलैंड्स दैट आर important for the conservation of global biological diversity. Four more Indian sites, two east from Haryana, Gujarat, have been recognized as wetland of international importance under Ramsar Convention, taking the number of such sites in the country to 46. For the first time, two wetlands in Haryana, Sultanpur National Park in the Gurgaon and the Bindawars Wildlife Sanctuary in Jhajjar have been included in the Ramsar list. The aim of the Ramsar list is to develop and maintain an international network of the wetlands which are important for the conservation of the global biological diversity and for sustaining human life through the maintenance of the ecosystem, compliance process and the benefit. In India, the wetlands are regulated under the Wetland Conservation Management Rule 2017. Which of the following wetlands in India are relisted under the Ramsar Convention? सारे हैं. चिलिका, क्यूलोदियो नेशनल पार्क, है ना. ये कोलोडू नेशनल पार्क तुम्हारे नैनीताल में है, उत्तराखंड. हारी के लेक, लोकटाक लेक, भूला लेक. The 46 Ramsar sites in India include the Chilika Lake in Odisha, Kolodeo National Park in Rajasthan, Harike Lake in Punjab, the Loktak Lake in Manipur, and the Bhula Lake in Jammu Kashmir. Consider following statement regarding the geologic sequestration traffic mechanism. देखो mineral carbonization refer to process where carbon dioxide can react with a mineral fluid and organic matter in a geological formation to form the stable compound or mineral. Hydrodynamic trapping refer to process where the carbon dioxide can be dissolved into a liquid such as the water or the oil. इसमें गलत कौन से है? इसमें second गलत है, पहला ठीक है. The hydrodynamic trapping refer to process where carbon dioxide can be dissolved into a liquid such as water or oil is wrong, and the mineral carbonation refer to the process where the carbon dioxide can react with the mineral fluid and organic matter in a geologic formation to form the stable compound or mineral. Hydrodynamic trapping: the carbon dioxide can be trapped as a gas under the low permeability cap rock, much like the natural gas is stored in the gas reservoir. Solubility trapping: the carbon dioxide can be dissolved into liquid like water or oil. Mineral carbonation: carbon dioxide can react with the mineral fluid and organic matter in a geologic formation to form the stable compound mineral, largely calcium, iron, and the magnesium carbonate.